Today, we're going to look at simple interest problems, which is a special type of word problem. We're going to have a few definitions talking about interest. We're going to look at a basic calculation involving interest, and then we're going to look at a typical word problem involving interest. So first, what is interest? Interest is the amount of money we get paid for lending or investing money, or the amount of money that we pay to borrow via a loan. When we put money in a bank, the institution pays us interest as a sort of a thank you for letting them hold on to the money. And then similarly, when we borrow money, like student loans, we have to pay some interest for the privilege of using that money until we repay it. Now, there is a formula that allows us to calculate interest when we're dealing with simple interest. And that formula, the relationship says that interest equals principal times rate times time. And we can write that as a formula I equals PRT. Now let's talk about what each of these quantities is. We've talked about what the interest is. The principal is the original amount of money that you're investing or that you're lending or that you're borrowing. Principal just means the original amount. The rate is the interest rate, and that's usually expressed as a percent. You might have a 3% interest rate on a loan, or you might have a 0.5% interest rate on a savings account. This rate is going to be the interest rate as a percent, which you're generally going to be given. And then time is the amount of time that you've let the money sit in your bank account, or the amount of time that you've had that loan out. And so to calculate the interest, we multiply the principal times the rate times the time. Now, I have to be honest with you. In most real-world situations, we don't use simple interest, we use compound interest. The thing is, it's much more difficult to do the math involving compound interest. That is something that you'll generally look at in a later math class with more complicated scenarios. So because simple interest is something that we're capable of dealing with, that's what we're going to be working with all these problems. Let's do a quick calculation so you can see how simple interest works. You deposit $4,000 into a savings account that has an interest rate of 3% per year. Calculate the interest earned after 1 year. Because we want to calculate interest, we're going to use the formula I equals PRT, and we can substitute in the values that we're given. We want to find the interest. The principal is the original amount that you invested, which in this case is $4,000, times the rate. Now the rate is 3% per year. However, we know that when we're doing math with percents, we have to convert them to decimals. So that's going to be 0.03. And then times the amount of time. Well, we are looking at the interest earned after 1 year, so that's going to be 1. So to calculate the interest, we multiply 4,000 times 0.03 times 1. And in that case, that's going to be $120. So if you put $4,000 into a savings account that earns 3% per year, at the end of a year, you would have an additional $120 in interest. Now, this is a basic calculation, and it doesn't represent the sorts of problems that we're going to be working with. We're going to be working with problems where there's an investment and it is split between 2 different accounts, and we want to figure out how much went into each account. Now, there is one thing that we're going to do here that's going to make this formula easier. For all of the problems that we're going to work with, the amount of time is going to be equal to 1, whether it's 1 year or whether it's 1 month and we're looking at monthly rates, time is always going to be equal to 1. So for our purposes, t is going to be equal to 1. And so when t is equal to 1, PR times 1 is just PR. And so the principal times the rate is going to give us the interest. And so we're going to say principal times rate equals interest. And this is going to be the formula that we're going to be using in our problems. Okay. In the next video, I'm going to work out one example of a typical interest problem step by step. So take a look at that one next.